At this point, just stay there.
Right.
Gosh, no, you don't want that.
It was just a waste of a life to me, and I don't like that. Like, oh, eventually I'll get out of this. No, get out now, today. Let's make movies where in the first scene something happens and they get out.
That's okay.
The movie's over then. The
don't-
movie is
no,
done.
No, it's not, because you can get out, right? You get
then
out
what?
and then you live a life.
Don't nobody want to see that.
Yes, we do. I do. I want to see that.
Story like early on in the plot, like
Yes, and
Not
then
the
see
exposition.
how she succeeds, and then
Okay.
you can show the other person who was causing the havoc. Show how they don't succeed. How about we do that? So that-
What is going on, XYZers? Hold on. Y'all can't see my plate. Let me move this out the way for a second. Yeah, we are grubbing. And I'm destroying everything I see. How about that?
Bruh. We said it was going to be complicated. It is complicated.
Complicated.
But we gonna make it work.
Yes, indeedy. But it's good to be back. Last episode of the season.
Yes.
We come a long way.
no.
Yeah.
So, and you can see we're doing a little mukbang. So, got to give a shout out to the wifey, Wanda. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
you.
so much.
How are the grits, Jasmine?
They're amazing.
I know you'll never hear that from me because I don't eat them. So I wanted you to hear it
She
from
put
someone.
her foot in these grits. They're so good. I love grits, and they're perfect consistency. And that's what's hard. That's the hardest part of grits. She got that. It's good.
Oh man.
Jasmine started eating.
Yeah, I was hungry, y'all.
I haven't
Real
really started
hungry.
eating yet. I'm gonna give my verdict at the end.
Yeah. But I don't really have nothing to open us up. Just that, hey, we get to eat while we're doing this time. It's something we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah.
So y'all might hear some smacking and some chomping and all sorts of good stuff.
ASMR.
Yeah, ASMR. Nice. And then we're going to go back through our season, basically. Each chapter, take a look at it, give a synopsis, talk about some things that stood out throughout the season, any other thoughts we have, and close up.
Yeah.
And then figure out when we're going to come back to see y'all again next season.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know how to open this. Oh, we got to introduce ourselves. Moyo always reminds me, and I always forget. So let's start with Jasmine this time.
I am your Gen Zer,
There
your
you go.
microwave. I'm gonna say Gen X. We always go this way. We switch it around. I'm Jasmine, your Gen Zer, the microwaver.
And, and I am Maya, the resident millennial.
Ba, 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 ba. And I am Chris, the latchkeyed one himself,
Hey,
the former X-Man,
exactly.
Gen X in the house, baby.
Yeah.
You know how we do.
Yeah.
Your introduction's my favorite.
And
Well, because
together,
and together we are Generational Scriptures.
That's so cute.
See, you threw me off. Yeah, I'm like the dog is like squirrel. I see something, it's like, oh, that's why I can't. I got to be mindful of emails even at work because I'll get sidetracked very
Me
easily.
too.
normally when people do mukbangs, they tell the audience and stuff what they're actually eating.
Oh, they do.
Yes.
I think they do.
They do.
Okay.
Okay.
So Miss Wanda made us, or Chris and Miss Wanda, because he
Thank
helped.
you.
He helped.
I did something.
She made biscuits. Oh, I still said she. They made biscuits, sausage, bacon, eggs, grits, potatoes. And y'all don't know this, but we usually record in the mornings, so that's why we're eating breakfast.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, breakfast is always good, though.
Yeah.
They're
Any time
so
of the day.
good.
Yeah.
Anybody out there who likes grits, leave it in the comments because I swear it's like a 50-50 thing. Sometimes people love them. Some people hate them. Like my husband don't even eat them at all. Like at all. Because of the consistency.
Yep.
So if it's a consistency thing for you, I get it, I guess. But if you season them right.
It's a consistency thing. Don't touch them. Yuck. Ugh. I can't do it.
I'm indifferent about grits. I'll eat
can't
them,
do it.
but I wouldn't go out of my way to eat them.
And that's what throws me because you're like, I can eat them. And I guess if it does, either way, you're good. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm not a super picky let me not say that. I'm lying. Most things are okay as long as it's not like stuff with filling. I don't like stuff with filling,
Okay.
and that's about it.
Okay.
I would try almost anything else.
If we're going to start with, let's start with chapter 37.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to go first with their?
I just thought of one.
Okay.
Dreams and tragedy.
Ooh, nice.
I thought you were gonna say dreams and nightmares, like the song. Okay.
Nice. Dreams and tragedy. All right, Jasmine.
I think mine will be, I don't know how to say it. People say like naivete. Is that how you say it? Naivete and jealousy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Those would be mine.
And my one word is impressions.
Impressions.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I see that.
Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that.
So I think all of them were right in a sense, right? Because the naivete with Joseph, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Jasmine will tell you she believed in him from the
beginning. I went back and watched those clips. I was like, wow, on the nail on the head.
Is that what I'm saying? I feel like we were still accurate. Naive is not a bad thing always. Like sometimes you just don't know.
Yeah,
True.
that's true.
And then I do like dreams and tragedy because chapter 37 was really focused on Joseph's dreams and the impacts that they had on the brothers and what ensued from there.
Right.
Yeah. And if you remember, Jacob was done. Once he found out his son was gone, inconsolable. Like nobody could do anything to change his mind.
Yeah, that's true. That was the biggest tragedy, I think.
And I have like a question about that. Something I overlooked, I think, a lot of things in scripture, and so like I went back and read again. And one thing they said on multiple occasions throughout multiple of these chapters was that they ripped their clothes when they were really upset.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacob ripped his clothes like out of sadness and everything.
Mm-hmm.
What was the ripping of the clothes? What does it signify, if anything?
A sign of mourning.
Oh,
like,
okay.
I want to say wretchedness. What's the word? Is that the word?
Wretchedness, despair, or mourning, or even in the New Testament when some of the Jewish leaders think that Jesus is blaspheming, you'll see something about they rent or tore their clothes as well.
Oh, okay.
So it was just sort of a sign of being upset. I don't know if wretched fits, but when you say wretched, what did you mean?
I'm thinking like you're at your lowest. Like there's a song that uses that word, and I was like, I feel like that song matches what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wretched man I am, or something like that.
Okay,
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm at my lowest point.
Yeah.
I just realized when I was reading back through, I was like, I never even noticed that part when he said he ripped his clothes until like I was reading forward and the brothers ripped their clothes, and I was like, okay, there has to be a reason why they're ripping their clothes. I don't understand, but it makes sense. Okay.
There is. And then I put impressions because this is our first introduction to each of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We get a little bit of insight into Reuben. We get a little bit of insight into Judah. At least how he was initially. We get some insight into Jacob.
Yeah.
And then obviously we get some insight into Joseph. So that was for chapter 37.
Yeah, and we gave some history, but I think in that episode we didn't point out all of the names. Mm-hmm. So we talked about how did that random man know them, and then you told us about the Simeon and Levi, but you didn't say Simeon and Levi. You just said kind of like, oh, he has these sons and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, oh, yeah. And later we talked about, Simeon and Levi, what happened to their sister, and that whole situation and why they may be notable people in their town.
Which gave that so much more context, because I was also, when we first read that chapter, I thought maybe they were just, it just seemed like God was just placing people. I was like, maybe this is just like a one-off, just a coincidence. Okay, he saw the brothers walking by, noticed them, was able to remember them from something that happened,
Yeah.
to give that same information to Joseph when he was looking for his brothers. But I didn't know the backstory. Like, I didn't know the history. So
Right.
that definitely helped me to, like, okay, this is making more sense. Putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that, even I still thought that it was a placement of a person in the right place at the right time to
Mhm.
get Joseph to go where he needed to go. So it's not too surprising that he would recognize the Jacob voice.
Yeah.
But I still thought it was like God put that person there because it's just so odd that they just called out a man, no
yeah,
name.
absolutely.
This dude was right here at this time to tell Jacob that his
Joseph.
brothers moved on to Dothan. Right?
Joseph.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Joseph.
thank
you.
And of course the J names.
But that fits the overall narrative that we talked about. That God's plan. It's like it seems miraculous the way things just seem to fall in line or not, like
Mhm.
on either side of the spectrum. But there is a greater plan. So like God's orchestrating things carefully so that these things can happen. And I started thinking about that in terms of life because I know like we try to tie this back in, especially for like the Gen Zers out there who are like, I had to tell somebody this past week. Like, you don't understand what is happening until it's already happened and you're looking back, like retrospective, how we're doing right now, like looking back on like, okay, all of this makes sense. You don't see that picture until God's plan has been fulfilled in whatever is happening. Then you can see the greater picture. A lot of times in the moment, you're like, this sucks. God, what are you doing? Or you're testing me, or why would you let this happen? But everything is carefully orchestrated for a reason. And that's what I feel like shows so much throughout the whole Joseph's entire story, but that little nugget of like the guy noticing them is like one piece of that puzzle.
Yeah.
I agree.
In the episode, I also said, I kept saying 11 kids, like other kids.
Mm.
And I don't know if we clarified, but I meant 10. I put it in the comments so that people will be like, y'all know what I meant.
Y'all know what I meant. I meant 10. I mean, all of them that went out to tend the sheep.
Yeah. Which, who knows? Maybe it was 8. Because at this point, we don't know who was out there.
Right.
But I think that's also interesting because when you think of the way that the narration is done, it's keeping in the important parts. Some of the details, like one that stuck out to me was like Reuben left for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't say where he left or it didn't even say he left. It said that he wasn't around.
Yeah,
I
he
believe,
came back.
And he came back and saw that Joseph was gone. So Reuben obviously left somewhere, but the narrator, Moses, didn't find that important. The important part was that Reuben wasn't there, he came back, and that Joseph was sold into slavery.
That's so crazy. I mean, it hops forward a little bit into 38.
Mm-hmm.
But, the son that was killed by God, like taken by God, we weren't told what he did either.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a piece that I felt like was missing that I thought could have been critical to the story.
Right.
God just took his life. Why? Because we know why Onan's life was taken.
Yeah,
but
have
we don't
some
know
indication
why Er's life was taken. And it just seems like there's like little holes that I guess you can look at it two ways. Like maybe it wasn't that pertinent to get across the story that needed to be told, but the other perspective is like maybe we just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. I was thinking about that this morning. Like that seems like pretty big.
Yeah, it does. But again, when you think of the grand scheme of the story that Moses is starting to tell, right? So this is how I look at it. When I think of scripture, so I guess with mukbang, you got to figure out how to eat and talk at the same time.
Right?
Right?
It's hard.
This is the first time for me. So y'all bear with me if I sound ASMR-ish. But, so that's the thing, right? So the Bible is really about, and I know that this is how I feel. It's about this creation that God made that was shalom, that was peace, that was awesome, that everything that Adam and Eve needed. They didn't have to worry about much. They had food, everything at their disposal. And then it's about the fall that happens, and we meet that in the first three chapters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's about the fall. So God set this up, the fall, and then the rest of Scripture to me is about, maybe up to Revelation, is about the redemption, the reconciling that God is doing with man to bring man back into himself.
Mm.
So I get it. We didn't get much info on him, but in the grand scheme of things, may not have been the focus because it was really about Onan and what he was doing with Tamar, not necessarily about Right. And ultimately, it was about Judah and seeing what's going on with him. So with that said, we're getting into chapter 38.
Yeah.
So what are your what's your synopsis? I'll go first. I put Judah's character for chapter 38.
I want to say righteousness.
Okay.
Gosh, I got good ones.
I'm making them up as I go because I have paragraphs too. And I'm like, I hope y'all don't say what I want to say in my head when it comes to my head.
That's the person. Deception is like the biggest thing I was focused on when I wrote my little blurb.
Yeah.
Like what she did helped other things unfold, and we learned more about Judah because of her actions.
Okay. So your deception, you were thinking about Tamar in specific. You weren't thinking about Onan.
No. Oh my God.
Because there's deception all over the place.
Yeah, it was.
Not thinking about what other areas of deception were. Was there any deception with
Judah?
With Judah?
Mm-hmm. Because he promised his son,
and he didn't want her to have him.
And he was never going to give her.
So that fits in the whole thing.
So just deception all over the place. We're throwing it all up. That's so crazy. No, really, like I acknowledge those pieces, but for whatever reason, Tamar just seemed more egregious to me. I don't know, like, it just, because like, whoa. Because then out of that whole situation, I mean, good and bad, I guess, Perez and Zera. Zera was birth of that whole situation. So I'm like, there something big came with this.
Right.
And I was like, man, like her. But then again, I think we talked about in the episode, like things were being done to her, and she was kind of like taking back her power in a sense, because she just wanted to have a child. She was supposed to have one. Well, I mean, Er's gone, so she's a widow. Onan is not he ain't trying to do it. I mean, he's doing it. He's, he's doing it. But he's spilling his semen on the ground.
Right.
So, like, it's like, there's some deception. And then I guess she acknowledges that she'll never be with Shayla because of Judah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she's just like, I think, I don't know. I don't use the word victim. I feel like victim's a little strong. But, like, we kind of talked about her being the one that's, I guess, a victim in the situation.
I don't think it's too strong because Chris brought it back to, what's that movie? The Color Purple.
Yeah. The movie you saw and didn't like at all.
I didn't. Oh yeah, I did go back and watch The Color Purple, people.
And you just don't like it?
I don't understand why all the classic, let me not say all, because I haven't even watched them all, but every time y'all tell me to go watch a black movie, it's trauma. Like,
okay, that's valid.
I don't like that.
Oh my gosh, it was, I mean, parts of it I was like, but the end of it I loved.
No, it took way too long.
It had the redeeming quality.
No.
Yeah,
is it redeeming?
Well,
how old was that lady at the end of the day?
That's
ridiculous.
That's true.
But I don't know, when they were at the table and she said, "Till you do right by me, everything you touch." I don't know. She did a finger somehow, some way. I was like, "Get him!"
It's your whole life is gone. Like, I don't. At this point, just stay there. Right?
No, you don't want that.
It was just a waste of a life to me, and I don't like that. Like, eventually I'll get out of this. No, get out now, today. Let's make movies where in the first scene something happens and they get out.
That's okay.
The movie's over then. The movie is done.
No, it's not, because you can get out, right? You
And
get
then
out
what?
and then you live a life.
Don't nobody want to see that.
Yes, we do. I do. I want to see that.
Story like early on in the plot, like
Yes, and
Not
then
the
see
exposition.
how she succeeds, and then
Okay.
you can show the other person who was causing the havoc. Show how they don't succeed. How about we do that so that people can stop traumatizing people?
All right.
No, that's valid.
So, all right. We're not going to change Moyo's mind about the color purple.
Terrible movie. Terrible.
Hated it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think that Tamar was going through a lot. Why did you say righteousness for that chapter?
Because there is a question of righteousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that chapter, we kind of debated what do they mean by righteousness here, because both of them to us are not doing great things. Like neither one of them throughout the whole story, there's no real redeeming qualities for Judah or Tamar. It's just like y'all did a whole lot of bad stuff, and God got his glory, but then Judah's like, you're more righteous than me, but is she?
Right.
So I think it's just the idea of like, what is righteousness? And something to think about.
Okay.
Well, so initially I was thinking of my one little sentence thing was going to be broken promises, because he say that you're more righteous than me because he broke his promise?
Yeah, I guess.
So maybe holding true to your word is what's more valuable, like what underpins or like what's causing him to say that. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like so and in that case the righteousness is not based on just righteousness. It's based off of you're just better than I am. But is righteous the word to use?
Okay, yeah.
Like is she actually righteous, or is it just that you're a little better than me actually?
Right.
Which is what I thought. That's just all. That's what it was. Okay, that's what I took from it when we first recorded that episode. Like, yeah, you're just a better person. Like, you're just a better person because I broke my promise to you. You didn't get what you were supposed to get out of this deal, which was a child. So,
yeah. And is she even really a better person, or did she just get her way?
Right.
Which is what I struggle with. I still struggle with the victim thing, but I mean, yes and no. I didn't really see her as a victim at the time. I guess I can see it now, but I still felt like you still did something wrong to get your way. You still deceived to get your way. And who's to say you were deserving at the end of all of this of what you got? Like, I don't know. That's initially my initial thoughts when I read this the first time. I still have little sprinkles of that, just a little bit, but I do understand that like she was kind of put in the position that she was in by Judah. So I get both sides.
Yeah, it's interesting. But what else stood out to me with that as we were talking is the fact that we have questions about the things that were done. And this is piggyback on seeing God in this, the Lord in this. But the Lord was still able to get accomplished what he wanted to, even with questionable agents.
Yeah.
Right? And even with Judah being bad, right? He was just this horrible dude, questioned a lot of the things he did, didn't look for a wife within the clan, but went outside and found a wife from somewhere else and lied to Tamar about Shelah. So even with that, through his line, God, before he redeemed himself, which we'll talk to in a bit, God had said Jesus is going to come through, through that line.
Yeah.
And part of getting the redemption, I think, was done by some questionable things by Tamar. Because she put herself out there as a prostitute. And, I mean, your boy didn't have to do it, but maybe he was feeling froggy. Who knows?
No, he was about that life, obviously.
but yeah, so even with those characters, even with that going on, what we see at the end is Perez being born. and he plays a major part in terms of the lineage that you see in Matthew of getting to Jesus. Um, and I put Judas' character, which we basically just touched on, right?
Yeah.
He was pretty foul, um, which is why we named the episode "Cruddy on All Fronts."
Yes.
Right. Anything else on 38, 39?
Mm-hmm.
I put for chapter 39 not a word but a phrase. Life happens to the best of us.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. I had put in charge and fell from grace.
Put in charge and fell from grace. Okay.
Yeah. In that episode, I said, God is with you no matter what situation you are in.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I'll go with that.
Ooh, why'd you pick yours? Put in charge and fell from grace.
Because I feel like sometimes, so we saw in here that Potiphar bought Joseph from the Ishmaelites, and it was noticed that God was with him. Everything he touched was prosperous. But in the midst of all that good, Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him, and when he said no, she took his cloak when he ran out, and then said that the reverse happened, that he was trying to seduce her and all of this, and then Potiphar was furious and threw him in jail. So I was thinking about it in terms of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great things happen. Like, my life is going so good. I'm on this right track. Like, I just had all this stuff happen to me, and I'm finally coming out on the other side. And then boom, it's like a train. You get hit with something else. And he was that's a big status to be like, he was put second in command to Potiphar, and he had his signet and all that. And then all of a sudden, I'm in jail. So that's a huge fall, and it wasn't his fault. But I did have in here that. Because God was with him. God was with him even during when he went to jail, because he was put in charge of the whole jail operation.
Mm-hmm.
So they saw good in him, which is so crazy that they knew God was with him, and they saw, I guess he had to believe his wife, but you see all this good in him, but you still think he's capable of doing what your wife said.
Yep.
She is his wife. So I understand. But still, in all of this, you see great things still happening, but regardless, he fell from his position.
Yeah.
He was in jail. So I was like, this sucks. But the minute he was put in charge, it's like, wasn't too long before
something happened.
Something else happened.
Okay.
I put him back down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think ours are similar, because I think we just worded them differently, because that's why I said life happens to the best of us. And pretty much the same. God is with them. Everybody who works with Joseph sees that God is with them. But stuff just happens. Life just happens. Life happens to him because, one, he's got to achieve, and people recognize him, that God is with him while he's a slave. He is a slave, serving Potiphar in his house. God is with them even as he's trying to be righteous and do the right thing with Potiphar's wife, right? But still, life happens because she accuses him of doing something, and he's got no recourse. He can't protect himself or fend for himself. And then once he gets to jail, same thing. It's just like this whole Joseph is trying to do right. He's trying to do the right things. He's saying the right things. He's working hard, and life happens, right? Yeah.
And basically what you said covers mine as well. Like, no matter what situation he was in, through we can say ups and downs, but a lot of it is downs, because we talked about how he's still a slave. No matter how he's ranking, he's still a slave. So until he gets out of that, it's kind of my ups and downs in this valley.
Right. It's like, at some point I was like, man, how far down can you go?
Yeah.
But so when you think of God being in that situation, what stands out to you character-wise about God, or just him being God and doing God things?
We could say so many things, like the God of compassion, God of love, all these things. But God, I feel like really from the story, and it's kind of really how I try to not imagine God, because it is who He is. But what calms and gives me peace is that no matter, like, God is, what is it? He's omnipresent.
Omnipresent.
He's always there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can feel like he leaves you. Like, I hate to say it, but in the worst of the worst, when life is beating you down, we all have had those moments when it feels like life is just beating you down. Like you said, how much lower can I get? Okay, well, you kicking me while I'm down. I've had enough. Like, why can't life just be a little bit more smooth for me? Like, and it feels like you're lonely. You have nothing to comfort you, and I feel like God is a very comforting. Like, knowing that you can lean on Him is very comforting for me, at least. But feeling like He's not watching your back can, like, really take you to a dark place. But knowing this shows you, like, even in the worst situation, Joseph has had a rough life up until now, and even in the worst situations, he's still finding favor.
Yeah.
Like, come on, that just knowing God is, I feel like knowing God is with you just opens so many other doors in your mind. Like, he's not gonna bring you. What is it? You've come this far. You've come too far to leave you. You've come this far. You think God is leaving you now? No.
Right.
He's always gonna be with you, and that was really revealed a lot to me in this chapter. And I think it's like there's 2 other chapters where I was like, yeah, hitting the nail on that theme. But that was a big one for me.
Yeah. That is that what your take is too, Moya?
Yeah.
I agree. And it's not that God leaves us. It's weird because I know people say it. It's just this feeling that you're not. Sometimes you just feel like you're right there. I don't know. And then sometimes it's like I don't really feel you, but it's like you have to come to the realization and rely on the knowledge that he hasn't left you. It's just something that's going on with you right now that makes you think he's far away, or things may not be falling exactly as you want, so you're wondering where he is. But things happen. Life happens.
Yeah, it reminds me of, the footprints in the sand story. Like, you feel like God isn't walking with you, but he's actually still carrying you through this situation. Yep. So it's perspective. Back to your other word from the other chapter, but it's just the perspective that you have. And Joseph, even though, because we talked about it, I don't remember which chapter, but we talked about how sometimes it seems like he's just kind of letting whatever happen, but we learn later that he's trusting God. He's leaning on God through all of this, and that's what got him through.
Yep.
I've told my grandmother on several occasions where I feel like me and God are distant cousins sometimes. Like, we have a little blockade, like something is right here. And I feel like that sometimes because it's on me to be praying and all this stuff to regain that connection. I know that God is always with me in the situations that I'm going through, and I know that He's like watching me and guiding me and orchestrate, like letting the plan unfold. But there are days where it's like, okay, so are we cool? Me and God we have a real homey relationship. So I'm like, God, like, I really. Because one of my teachers told me I have to start talking to him like he's my friend. Like, we are friends. You have to get that comfortable with the Lord. So I'm like, you know what? Are we good? do I need to start getting in my Bible more? Do I need to pray more? What am I doing wrong? Lord, redirect me if I'm going the wrong direction. I feel like I'm getting smacked right now. Like, smack. And I just need help. In those situations, it gets kind of difficult. And it was interesting to me. Well, we do learn that he does cry out at some point, like, hey, especially with the cupbearer, like, don't forget me, or like in the pit he was weeping, which we didn't know initially. He does, not just sit like, oh, well, whatever, But I like, I be having to cry out to look, please, like, pull me out. I thought Joseph was like a little content with his struggle initially. Like, I don't know why you like sitting in this horrible situation, but I would be like, Lord, please stop it. Please stop all of this from happening. Because why am I going through all this? And I'm being obedient. Like, he's been consistently obedient. But I mean, it all works out for the good, which we wind up, seeing down the line.
That kind of reminded me of we started off making parallels between Christ and Joseph's story. And then you said, like, take this away from me. And the same thing, Jesus was like, can this pass for me? Like, do I actually have to do all of this? He still did it and went through it, but Joseph in the same way was like, you could tell he didn't want to be in these situations. He's like, God, help me, please.
Yeah.
And he still had to get through all of that either way to get
it.
to where he needed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's like for life even now, right? I think the point is you're going to have to go through some stuff.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy all the time. I often say things like it's not like you get to go through the prairie frolicking.
Yeah.
I saw this hilarious. I think I sent it to myself Instagram, and it was just a bunch of grown men frolicking. I mean, like in the prairie, running and rolling in the like. We can frolic. Let's frolic, and they're taking pictures, and so that's cool. But life's not going to be like that all the time. There will be opportunities to frolic, but there'll also be some downtimes that you have to get through.
Yeah.
And I know for me, one thing that I told myself I'm going to start doing is examining myself more. Because I feel like there are times when we can think we've got it all together, and there can be things that God is saying to us, but we let it go because we think we're in a good spot and we don't examine ourselves. Right? I find with preaching, I'm usually preaching with, the people in mind. And what I hope is that people aren't, hearing something that I'm saying and be like, oh, yeah, that's not for me. That's good. No, when I put a message together, I'm examining myself in that time. And I'm like, I need for people that hear it to examine themselves.
Yeah.
So that you'll be like, maybe that is for me. Maybe I do these things. Now I need to figure out and work on rectifying. So I really think that it's a point of introspection that I'm going to start trying to do more going forward.
Fun fact for chapter 39
Ooh.
was that was the first time we used the resident millennial and microwaver.
It is, isn't it?
I like that.
Yeah,
Oh
and that's when we were asking for me for the group.
Yeah,
and we came up with that. But yeah, that was the first time. Sweet.
Yeah, you didn't have a name for a minute.
No,
you didn't. Not till chapter 41, where you were temporarily an X-Men.
X-Men. Cool. I like that tidbit. That's cool.
Oh, I like that we have benchmarks.
Yep. Awesome. All right, chapter 40. What was that for?
I want to say confidence.
Confidence. Okay. What did you have, Jasmine?
Mine's not positive.
No.
Mine was like, is used and abused.
Used and abused.
Thrown away.
Ooh, used and abused and thrown away. Confidence. Mine is coalescing.
I don't even know what that means.
I know. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, you got to define it for us.
Yeah, we need the definition.
Coalescing, like things coming together, everything's starting to fit into place.
Okay.
It's coalescing.
For this chapter, though?
Yeah.
I'm interested to know
why.
Why do I say that for this chapter? Because things seem, I wrote down here, things that seem like happenstance. Which prison does he go to?
Oh.
Who are the people that get put into that prison?
Okay.
Right? The dreams that the people have in that prison. The fact that God gives Joseph the interpretations of those dreams. So to me, when I read this chapter, it's sort of setting up all the pieces in place so that Joseph can get to ultimately where God wants him to get.
Okay.
That's why I said coalescing, because it's all these pieces, all this stuff coming into this jail and all these things happening in jail. And it leads to some other things out of that.
I understand. That makes sense. It's like synergy, like when things just start working very well together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I understand.
And mind you, he's still not in a great place. I
Yeah.
get that. That's why I understand yours too, because it's not gonna, you can feel used and abused, right? But even in that place, I think God is bringing people and putting things together. And why did Potiphar put him here as opposed to putting him over there? Why? What did the baker do? What did the cupbearer do to get put into prison? Right. So it's just like all of these things happening. It's like an extension of the man that they meet, that Joseph meets as he's going to find his brother. To me.
Right. Okay. I
So,
understand that.
So
I don't know. Using abuse. I think he was using. I really, and in the episode, I think I said like they got their dreams interpreted well. For one, it worked out positively. For the other, not so much. And then they forgot about him. And I was like, again, Joseph is just sitting back, complacent. But no, we find out that he was like asking. He asked him, "Hey, don't forget about me, okay? I'm here. Tell him about me. You know, like that was his attempt to get out of here. Like I just didn't. I was losing hope for Joseph because in our series, I didn't read ahead, so like I was like, okay, I don't know where this is going, but
it looks pretty dark.
It looks pretty dim for you because once the cupbearer was out and like it's like when people get what when people get what they need and then they forget about you and they never you never hear from them again.
Yeah.
But like as we continued to read on, I understood like things had to happen the way they happened. And like even one of our like little reels on Instagram, I was like, yeah, if we didn't have this situation where he was still in jail, we wouldn't have anything further to read. Mm-hmm. So things had to unfold this way. I was not feeling it. Yeah. For the sake of Joseph, I was ready for him to be out too. This is what like he interpreted. That might be after this where he interpreted Potiphar's dreams. No, that was before. Or no, Pharaoh's dreams.
That's
after. So okay, so we're at the point where he's expressed his dreams to his brothers and his father. Mm-hmm. Now he's interpreting dreams and he's like giving God the glory, like not me, but God. Like this is not me who's interpreting these dreams. God is interpreting the dream, and he makes it very clear in there, like he's doing all that he needs to do just for him to be stuck in the same position. So I was just like, it was a very melancholy chapter for me.
Yeah, but I think the giving God the glory is why I said confidence, because his original dreams in the beginning have yet to be fulfilled. But he's still like, hey, I know how to interpret dreams still. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, we were talking about like, why are you so confident? Why do you feel like God got you like this? And even through all of this, he's still like, yeah, actually, yeah. God can give me the answers to this.
Yeah. Okay, I see that.
That's interesting. That's cool. I like all of those takes.
It's really all about perspective.
Yeah, it is. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Seeing God in this. I think I sort of stated it from my standpoint, that I think that God is using all of these agents and having all of these agents' activities sort of come into this one spot where he can continue to bring forth Joseph and his ultimate plan. Mm. So I still think that here we see God's his providence and his sovereignty. He's working it out as he needs to and wants to.
Mm-hmm. God always works in the waiting. But I was talking to somebody who told me like, you don't wait doing nothing. Mm-hmm. You wait and you work. Yeah. While you know, and he was working and he's waiting. But it just seems like it was an eternal wait.
Mm-hmm. You see, yeah. I mean, even to the point of, I think at the end of the chapter, it was, I think you may have mentioned this, it was 2 years.
Yeah. Like.
And I think we said in the episode, like, Joseph was like, okay, it's been 5 days. Okay, that's cool. Got a little bit of time. You got to get back in front of Pharaoh. We talked to him a little bit, butter him up, get him back in position. But then after 2-3 weeks, it's like,
he forgot me.
I'm done, Joe. I'm still in here.
I would have lost that. You know what? I think that was episode 2 when we talked about putting your faith in people versus putting your faith in God. Like trusting, like he couldn't put his faith. Well, I guess kind of that putting faith in the cupbearer, that he would go and speak on his behalf and talk to Pharaoh, like, hey, like I'm still here. But ultimately, I guess he's trusting God throughout the entirety of his story up until this point. So it's a lesson to be learned in that, because I feel like oftentimes I'm putting my faith in the system or people or for things to work out in my favor, when really I should just trust God, because I know God's gonna work it out for me. It's just harder because you can't really see what God is doing. I can't really watch him do work the progress. I can see the things happening in front of me, but that's up to me to understand what it's God working for my benefit. But when you trust people, I can watch you go up there and talk to my supervisor. I can watch you go over there and talk to my friends hey, put in a good word for me. I can watch that unfold. I can't watch God do what he's doing.
Give me an analogy. It's almost like an hibachi grill.
Yeah, you watch them cook.
It's like this great dinner is planned, and when they go in the back, of course you're just talking about with other people that you may have gone to eat with. But when it's an hibachi thing, it's like, okay, I'm expecting this good meal, and you're watching everything go into it, and the rice, and the chicken, and the steak, and the shrimp. And then when you get it, you're like, okay, this is what I expected.
Yes, exactly.
But we don't get that insight.
I know, and it sucks.
It's hard, and I put this down as well, that God interprets dreams, and Joseph stands on business, on God's favor, and what has been given to him. And I put after that is faith. That Joseph is believing. Yeah. Joseph has faith. He understands that God's going to carry out what he. So it's like, I mean, I see the meal being made, but I know it's going to be good. Genesis chapter 41. I put down.
Oh, that one we split though.
We did. We split it into two.
We're still doing one word.
Yeah, I would do still one word.
Okay.
I did one word. If somebody did,
that's fine.
Did two.
I didn't do any words, so I'm just off the top of my head.
Well, it's just up here freestyling, like she from New York. All right, so boom. I put down job interview from the Lord.
I put job interview. I would say level up.
Level up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I put the turn of the tide.
That's good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, because he's brought before Pharaoh to interpret his dreams, which winds up being the famine. You see the cows and the grain, the sick looking cows, and the healthy cows, and the full grain, and then the skimpy grain, and Joseph comes out of the prison. He has to look presentable, so he cuts his hair and he gets all clean, his clothes and everything, and he winds up, once he's able to interpret the dreams, he's appointed Pharaoh's second. And that's a positive. Now, after a few chapters, I started thinking about his position differently. Specifically after our one we just recorded, the past two, about how nothing is really Joseph. So this was a great position that he was in, but he's still not a slave. I don't want to say a slave. He's not a slave, but he's a servant. He's still serving a master, so to speak. And the things that he was given, all of the great luxuries that he was afforded, weren't his without Pharaoh. And I didn't see that initially.
Right.
I really looked at it like he's just living this luxurious life, and he can go and come in as he pleases. But then I think especially after you say I don't think that could really happen. I don't know if that.
Oh, him leaving.
Leaving as he pleases, or even him being able to give freely as he wants, is still Pharaoh's stuff. It's it's not his. So it is a positive. It for sure is a positive, because I felt like this is now the up of his life, the start of an up for his life. But it's not a full. It wasn't a really full circle for me. Now that I know what I know.
Now that you've seen some other stuff.
Yeah. So, But definitely, because the turn of the tide really for me was, okay, he's able to freshen himself up. He's coming out of the jail. He's in front of all big people, and he's interpreting a dream. Once again, he again mentions not me, but God. He gives it to God. But you're able to see him in a more positive light. God is, you can start to see the sprinkles of what God has been doing,
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't see it as happy as I did at one point.
Okay. All right, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I said level up because for everybody, it's kind of a let's elevate. So Joseph comes out.
Mm-hmm.
He has to be presentable, so he's out of that prison garb.
Yep.
He's cleaned up.
Yep.
He's put in front of Pharaoh. He gives his interpretation. We also see his shift from his naive, like, I'm just gonna tell y'all whatever I feel like telling y'all, to I got a little bit more, like, I know how to interpret the room now. Like, I know when to speak and when not to speak. So he's like, hey, whoever you think can do this, go ahead and appoint them because this is what you should do. And he gives the plan. And Pharaoh levels him up. Like, he's like, hey, nobody's smarter than you, so go ahead. And so I feel like for everybody, even for Pharaoh, he doesn't have to even do anything. Joseph got it. Like, do what you need to do. Here's a signet. You are me. Just do what you need to do.
Do what you got to do.
So it was a level up. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's as like what you're saying is still valid, but from where he's coming from,
yes,
it's either I level up here or I stay where I'm at. Yeah, there's still no going home because he has no way to get there.
Yeah, he wasn't going to be able to go home.
Yeah.
I agree with both of those. I feel like there's so many terms I want to use, like a glow up, like he got some drip, like it's chaining day.
Yes.
All of those things stand out to me when we talk about Joseph coming out and being put before Pharaoh, and then the signet ring and all the stuff that comes after. So yeah, and the point of it being a job interview for me was he got interviewed, tell me about the dreams that I had. Pharaoh was happy with the interpretation. Pharaoh puts him in charge and lets him go off and do what he needs to do. One thing I did put down here, and this will come up later, I'm sure. Joseph talked about how good the years of plenty would be. We did not talk about how lean the years of famine would be. The selling of grain was part of Joseph's plan. So don't look at him sideways when he follows through with it. And I'm sure y'all will pick up on that later if you haven't already.
Okay. We talk about it later. Because yes, it was part of his plan. It was part of his plan. But even in that episode, we talk about you're the only him and the high officials here are the only ones who know this plan. So no one else has the opportunity to prepare for your plan. So no one has a way to make money. All they're doing is spending money. And so I think everything we said in that episode is still valid. Like, you did a lot. It was a lot.
I'm just saying.
But I see
selling grain was part of the plan.
Yes, selling grain was part of the plan. We understand that. Yeah. But to what extent did it have to be taking everything you have plus some? And actually you just come here and be a slave while you're at it.
Okay. It got 85%. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, cool.
Something I want to clarify because I remember putting in my notes.
I wish I got 85% of my paycheck.
Don't be sorry. I was just talking to somebody about taxes the other day. Like, don't even show me my check before taxes. Show me after because you're gonna take it anyway.
This don't sound so bad now, do it? Well, it's like, look, no, no, it still doesn't make sense.
I think I said earlier that he got the signet from Potiphar. He got the signet from Pharaoh, not Potiphar. Yeah, that's because I didn't explicitly put that in my notes. That was a big deal. Remember, because Tamar got the signet from Judah as like his ID. Like, hey, I need proof. This is you. I need something to say that this is you. And the signet and the staff was that for Judah. But in this case, he's getting the signet from Pharaoh to say, like, he's like, he can make decisions. I think in the scripture it said that he's king over Joseph, but everything else, like, Joseph has control over pretty much. Like, you can make the decisions on my behalf kind of thing. So I just want to clarify that because I just remembered I said that, but that was wrong.
Cool. All right.
That was the first episode we split.
It was.
It was long.
Because it was long.
It was
so much
long.
information in there.
I can't remember what how many verses? Do you remember how many verses there are in
It's
there?
like
57.
I was like over 40.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why.
We
It is
also
just a
did
lot of stuff.
that was the second half was the first time I did like a summary because we were trying
Yeah.
to mesh. Oh, let's catch up on what happened
Yep.
and yeah.
Oh yeah, we were introduced
All right,
to more. It was
so boom.
amazing summaries.
Yes.
Y'all and they're straight to the point, and they are easy to comprehend. Like,
Yep.
The layman's terms.
Yep.
We love it.
It's awesome. Oh man, that's pretty cool. It's like there's a little history of the generational scriptures,
Yeah.
and seeing it get better and better and doing different things.
Yeah.
All right, so Genesis 42. Jasmine, we'll let Moyo go second so she gets a minute to freestyle.
Okay. For this one, I have test number 1. So yeah, and I'll get into that in a minute.
Test. Okay. I think I see where you're going.
Mhm.
I think I see where you're going. All right.
Go ahead, you go.
All right. I put famine imposed meeting.
Okay, valid.
I want to say Bruno so bad.
Oh no!
Yeah, did y'all even watch
I
Encanto?
did watch Encanto.
You did?
I did. Yes.
Okay, so does it make sense?
Yes. It
Okay,
makes
okay.
sense.
Okay.
It definitely makes sense. But
Yeah.
yes.
I'm
Okay.
gonna say Bruno.
Bruno.
That's my word.
Boom. Bruno.
Bruno.
Why you say Bruno?
And you gotta watch Encanto to get it fully.
Right.
But the real reason I'm saying it is because when they were whispering, it's like they didn't really want to. I mean, they were also talking in a different language. They thought
Right.
so. It's like it's like the thing that keeps coming up for them, but they're trying not to like face it full on.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's that secret, the family secret.
That
We
just-
can't bring it out.
That hangs around.
Yeah.
Yep. I put famine imposed meeting just because the famine is what brought this about. This meeting doesn't happen without the famine.
Sure.
And it made me think of one of the things. I think I put a post under one of our reels or something saying, maybe I shouldn't have said, I think I even stated it stronger than that. Like I should not have said that God caused the famine. Then I went back and I read, in 41, the interpretation. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, let me tell you all the things that God is about to do, that the Lord is about to do.
Mm.
So it's like, maybe the Lord, when I read that, and then he goes in and talks expressly about the 7 years of plenty and then the famine. It's like, hey, maybe that was caused by the Lord,
Yeah.
right?
And I would say that natural disasters and things like that, would we not say they're caused by God? If he's controlling, like the seas, the skies, like all of these things are in his hands. And a lot of times in the Bible, like the flood, God caused the flood,
caused
right?
the flood, yeah.
What is the Sodom and Gomorrah? Like he
Yeah.
caused these things because he was trying to accomplish something. So it's the same to me. I don't think of it as he's sinning, because I think that's why we're trying to say, oh, it wasn't God, but it is. He's not committing a sin. He's just God. He does what he wants to do.
Following his plan.
Yeah, to fulfill whatever his big picture is.
Yeah.
That's how I saw it.
And it's just when you start to talk like that, there's always that trilemma, right? If God is all good and God is all knowing, right? And God is all loving, then why do these things happen?
Mm-hmm.
And some of it, I think, is just as we're talking about, that there's agency that people have, right? Let me take a step back. People are going to behave and do things out of their own agency.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, looking at this story, the brothers selling Joseph into slavery. I believe that's of their own agency.
Yeah.
Right? Potiphar's wife lying on Joseph and trying to get Joseph to be with her. That's on her own agency. It's hard to do that with natural disasters. right? So there's no personal agency involved. But also, when you start to talk that way, you you have to also realize the comeback of the trilemma that I just mentioned. If God is all good and God is all loving and God is all powerful, why do these things happen? And and so that's what I wrestle with when I think of natural disasters.
Yeah.
I know natural disasters are really here because of sin. Because when you go back and you read chapter 3 of Genesis and what God says about basically the repercussions, and he tells Adam, you'll have to work in this land. I'm paraphrasing here, that would just give you good food to eat. Now you'll have to dig and work for your food and go through tears and weeds and all of that stuff. And then there's also, in I can't remember which chapter in Romans, but it talks about the whole universe groaning in travail, wanting to be restored to the way it was before man had plunged it into the state that it's in. So it's like understanding that man has something to do with some of the things that happen in this earth, in this world, from, I even think it's weather related, right? Earthquakes, these things that are just like natural disasters that just deal and harm thousands of people.
Mhm.
But I also agree with you, and that's what I had to come to the realization of, is that there are also these cases where, just as you said, the flood happens because the Lord said, my I think he said something to the effect of my spirit shall not strive with man, or something of that nature. So he's got to bring the flood. But then he has some redemption because he brings 8 people through the flood, Sodom and Gomorrah, because that was a judgment thing as well, because it was just their wickedness had become so great that I think, from what I've read, it sort of started to impact and infect people around there. So God was going to deal with that because there was a great outcry against them. And so there's just that balance that I think needs to be made, and that's something that I continue to work through, right? Because God doesn't sin. I would never
Yeah.
put that on him.
I think I'm at a place where I don't like, I'm not going to argue with somebody about why something has happened, or is it God or is it not God?
Mm-hmm.
Just because I always come to the conclusion that God does whatever he wants. And that's just what it is. Like, most of the things, that the way for me to just get past it is to say, God is sovereign. He can do whatever he wants. Like, period. I don't want to
get into
dig and start trying to figure out, well, what this and this and this and if a person did this, it'd be bad. But if God did this, then why is it good then? Like, that type of debate is not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah.
So I get the questions, but I also,
you're able to,
like,
sort of move.
Yeah, I'm just like, when I get to heaven, I ask if we have the mind to even be able to understand it then,
right.
Because we still may be, I don't know what kind of minds we'll have, or
Right.
how much understanding we'll gain.
Right. Yeah.
But I'd rather just get myself to heaven and y'all figure the rest out yourselves.
Yeah. So that's why I was going back and forth in that. It's
Yeah.
either in 41 or in 42 where I stated that. But it's just a constant thing for me.
Yeah.
All right.
42 was all your latchkey. You introduced.
Oh, did I do that one?
Mm-hmm.
So when was I X-Men, in 41?
You were, I think it was 40. Yeah, 41. 41. Okay. You were X-Men for one episode. Yeah. Well, 2 technically.
Yeah.
2-ish, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Then you were the latchkey, and that's when you started doing those cool transitions in the videos.
Oh,
with the little hook at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
on this episode,
Chris.
Hey,
changing things up.
I'm trying. Wait till you see what we got in store next year.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. We wanted the same thing.
Was there anything else in this? Because we aren't like digging into the chapters. We're just going through our words. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, nope.
Well, I think the 42 did make me question. Like, I think we did talk about whether it was God or Joseph acting. Because it seemed like I put in here he was sad but cynical. So like he was sad because of his brothers, because he wept in private before, like as they were whispering, whatever. I think we did talk about he was crying maybe because they remembered him. He's like, oh, like, my brothers, they remembered me, but also he is accusing them of being spies. So I wasn't really understanding the test. It seemed to be the opposite in my mind of what God would have wanted, like something that's not God ordained. Like I grappled with myself for a while, and I think we talked about it, whether we can say that certain things are God's doing, if God is working through him in this sense, or if it is just Joseph being
Human.
Yeah.
And who wouldn't? I mean, me, I would have probably been a little worse than Joseph was. But and I can understand, his plight, but if for all this time, it started to confuse me because up until now, I felt like his big thing was to be obedient to God and do what is Christ like. This didn't seem Christ like to me though.
Right.
So I just was a little disappointed. I think I said that in the episode. Like, I'm very disappointed in you, Joseph, because it didn't seem like his character, from what I understood. Now, also a big thing too. We saw a little bit of the character of Reuben.
Yep.
Just a little bit. So he was shut down miserably when he offered up for Jacob to kill his sons. Crazy and unstable, as we see, but it was all in like the hope for them to come back, bringing Benjamin back to Joseph, which is what he wanted. And we'll see his desperate efforts to keep him with Joseph. Like, I think it's in the next one during the dinner.
Mm-hmm.
But it just was an interesting chapter. I was just really confused and kind of disappointed seeing that it just didn't seem like he was being his normal self, operating as God would have had him operate. And I really thought, like, God doesn't sin, as we've already said. So if he's sinning, it's not God, that's him. But God's been working through him this whole time. So, like, at what point did it switch? Like, was it when he saw his brothers? Was it this entire chapter? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think we saw from Judah and Tamar that God can work through anybody.
Yeah.
To get what he wants done. So even if Joseph was acting a bit out of character, which I tend to agree with, because he knew they weren't spies, but he was calling them that. At least, if I remember correct, I'm not sure if Moyo, I don't remember if you thought they were spies or not, if he thought they were spies or not.
I think I said it's possible that they could have been, like, his accusation could have been accurate.
Right.
Yeah. Not that they were, but that it's a valid, because of the people around. Because of the people around, he has to make something that's like, put them in jail. Like, everybody around you that's watching has to be like, we believe you. The show has to seem real.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, that could be it. But
and
he's Joseph. He's second in command. He could have said, "Hey, get them, put them off to the side because I need to talk to them before they get grain."
Yeah.
But why?
But instead, he decides to.
Why
go
not?
to this
He can
extreme.
do what he wants to do. He's second in command. Pharaoh is not going to tell him why.
Not Pharaoh. It's the people around. The people around. You'll know, like, even with the story with Potiphar's wife and Joseph, she sent the people away because if they witness it, it's going to be like, what is happening here? Like, what are you doing? So it's always whatever show you're putting on, as we're seeing, it has to be acceptable in the eyes of the people that are around, because some people are going to question it. If he's like, hey, these people, put them over there, for what? Now you still got to come up with something.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
I feel like it's not just, you can't just do things because you're in a position, which is what everybody should understand. I feel like Joseph understood
that. So he was, and we see later that he's got reasons for doing the things that he's doing. Okay. And Reuben, it wasn't just the kids, right? Take my grandchildren. It wasn't just that, but do you remember the "I told you so" that Reuben gave him? Yes. I told you not to kill him or something.
I told you.
I told you that his blood would be speaking to us from forever.
Yeah.
So Reuben, we get a little more insight into him.
Well, then maybe he should have been doing his part.
And then this is one where you were just talking about, where we finally see Joseph's distress when he was put in the pit. We finally see that he wasn't just down there like oh, okay, guess I'm in a pit now. He was like, no, let me out of here.
Which is so good to know.
Which is,
I was
yeah.
like, you just letting this stuff, you just sitting back
Yeah.
and just letting this stuff happen and not saying anything. But I was like, okay, he's calling out for help. Like this is kind of like a human
Yeah.
side of him
Yeah.
coming in, like being shown here.
Yep.